elsewhere, and it has that, it says that another time in there, that elsewhere is which has me a little concerned.
Sure, and I would recommend, I'd get that clarified with wherever that agreement came from, as it's not ours, first and foremost.
Yeah, this is,
I would ask,
this is Barron Winds LLC, first grantee, Raymond G. Bardine, right from, I got this right from the county clerk.
so memorandum. So if he wants to build a structure on the property, that's great.
Right,
If a neighbor wants to build one, they can knock themselves out. They can go for it and do it, because we don't have any rights over that property,
okay.
period.
But the way that's reading, you can understand where I'm coming from, that
Exactly, yeah.
that language is a little,
Yeah, totally.
it's not very clear, I guess,
Yeah.
as to what somebody else's rights are that don't have the good neighbor agreement.
I think it's confusing, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Thanks for highlighting it.
Right,
But the fact is, if you're not under the agreement, you're not subject to it.
right. Well, when it says elsewhere, that makes me think other properties that aren't good neighbors, so that was my concern.
Also, by the way, the easement specifies the property.
Mhm.
So again, I mean, that's another way to make sure exactly where you have the rights and where you don't.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying. I just say, when I see elsewhere, that's got me concerned. You know, that's like, go to an attorney and ask them, well, how do they interpret that? So, okay, thank you.
So on page 12, the aircraft lighting. The use of aircraft detection lighting systems, and we'll put in or similar technology.
Yeah, or I had other light minimization technology
Or just or similar.
or similar.
That will take care of that one.
Good.
Yeah.
The well testing, you know, we looked at the topography of the area and where things are, and that's how we came up with the distance.
Sorry, say that one more time.
The well testing,
Okay.
we kind of looked at where the project is, kind of where people's houses were in relation to windmills, and that's how we come up with that distance.
35.
But we did, you know, we made it so you guys could send out your things, and if no one sent anything back, then we kind of.
Like, is there any way you could provide the board with the list of people that got a letter from environmental design? Just so they have a number of how many people received those letters? Because I know everybody up by me got them, Canfield Road, over on Jones Road, I mean,
Yeah, I think that's.
is that possible?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do that.
I don't know, let us think about if there's some, privacy concern. I like providing the number,
uh-huh,
not necessarily people's homes addresses.
oh,
for you.
okay,
Although you know them all,
right.
but maybe the number sent.
Yeah, I'm just curious how many people got that, you know, how big of an issue is it? Yeah,
And the distances they put for proclaiming that they had to send them a letter to begin with. I mean, was there a specific distance? You know, we talked about
Yeah.
before, was it 2,000, is it 1,000 or 3,000? If we had that knowledge would be great, just to have that number of what the most distance was for any of those letters that were sent out.
yeah. And part of that too, for example, I've got a neighbor that never received a letter, but yet he's closer to where a turbine's coming. And there's another gentleman up on Canfield Road who just bought a property within the last year. The letters went out before that, you know, so, you know, just to have the number, which it might be bigger than that, there's just two examples right there, you know,
That's all.
yeah.
Unless you have anything.
So before you guys wrap up, I didn't really hear anybody comment on that comprehensive plan. I was just curious what the board thinks as far as just adding some simple language in there that any projects coming into the town would abide by our comprehensive plan.
In this or in the new comprehensive?
This, anything coming in the future, that was the whole purpose of putting the comprehensive plan in, was for our future in the town.
I guess that'd be a whole other issue. We'd have to go over the whole thing and redo it with me, or it hasn't been,
Oh, you can't redo it now, it'd take 2 years to redo it.
it hasn't
It
been
would have
done
to be
in 10 years?
amended there,
I don't think you can even amend it, I think it takes 2 years to make changes to that, I believe, to the comprehensive plan. I'm just asking that, you know, any projects coming in, you know, that they would abide by that. I mean, that's what it was for. It was here long before EverPower, you know, ever even thought about coming here, so.
I guess something that was made 10 years ago would be obsolete by this time.
No, it was just six years ago is when that was passed.
Yeah, 2012.
About the last year you were in,
Yeah. You voted for it.
would be. What are we waiting for, a motion to approve these changes then?
Yeah. So,
One more item that I think we chip out outline, that we haven't touched on is just the buyback of the homes. So
Now,
just
that is
wanted to-
something we agreed on, and that was part of what we negotiated when we moved from the 42 to 45. So are you
And
guys
just-
pulling out of that now?
No, we're just questioning, you know, has David Pullen taken a look at that? Because I'm not certain that that's actually,
Or is
legal.
that coming from Attorney Spitzer?
no, we've done, I couldn't remember, I mentioned before, it's a project. There's another energy plant many years ago where the town, that clause had made its way into the documentation. And I believe, and we're only asking to check with Mr. Pullen. You know, I think that's a simple question for him. That's all.
Well, I know Attorney Spitzer did not like it.
Back then, I don't know, I just know
No,
we had.
now.
Okay. So there's a taking,
Mhm.
and I think it's just a function of, it goes from here to the county for review.
Mhm.
Is that something like that they review and say, well, this is not legal, they immediately scratch it and it comes right back.
That actually has gone to the county twice before,
And it's
and they
been
haven't
fine.
said a word about it,
Okay.
because
We just highlight it.
EverPower has not contacted them with the problems with
And so if they reviewed it, their attorneys have, and they're fine, that's good. We're just highlighting it. Okay.
And you guys agreed to it, so are you telling us you agreed to something that was illegal?
No, we're not saying
Oh,
remove
Just-
it, we're
just to-
saying have the attorney review it.
okay.
Different
Just-
language.
Just to be
different
clear,
language.
I think what was in there previously was 100%, and it got increased to 101.
Actually, our attorney did that
Okay.
to cover the appraisal. Is that the problem you guys are having?
No, we
Is
just
the
think that
120?
we just think that that the portion may not be legally correct or allowed within the courts or backed up. And again, the only thing we're asking, just, you said the county's reviewed it, I had Mr. Pullen take a look at it, so that's great.
He's looked at it and he adjusted it to 120 to cover the cost of the appraiser.
Okay.
And then you guys have agreed to it multiple times over the past few months, and it's never been an issue until now.
Okay. So I think what we're just looking for is to make sure that the law is legal, and what's in here is, you know, something that we should all be held to.
Yeah, the county took a look, Mr. Pullen took a look, it's in your law, great, let's go.
Now, can I ask a question? Does the county contact you, or have you guys been contacting the county for input?
We have been discussing with the IDA. We have,
Okay.
that's-
Should you have language in there that if the county or somebody decides that that's illegal or they throw that out, that you would then go back to the 42? It would be either or? And another issue, you know, back to this L10, if I'm remembering right, Attorney Spitzer, who's representing these guys now, he was the one that wrote that law
Yeah.
back in 2008 to put the L10 in, so that was him, so, really.
And we're fine with that, that's great.
Right.
Let's put it the way he wrote it, which is 50.
Yeah, but
dB,
things have changed, though, this was in 2008.
They've not.
Oh,
So-
yeah, everything's changing, like they said earlier, day by day, month by month, the technology has changed tremendously.
We've seen, we will use the lowest technology available that's suitable. serrated edges or similar technology. We've agreed and agreed. It's exactly what we want to do. Here's a project when the next town says, what do they sound like? Do they sound like Cohocton? We say, no, let's go over here and have a listen, knock on doors and talk to people. That's what we want to do. So.
What's turbine is, where do you keep referring to? Where are you gonna take us on the magic bus to?
Oh, yeah, look down that magic bus is still in motion. Yeah,
No,
we'll
the-
certainly let you know when we're
The
able
town
to.
you keep referring to that you'll take us on the bus to,
Oh,
or
any,
we'll
you
knock on
name
all
it,
the
where you
doors.
wanna go.
She just wants to turn them on.
Yeah, they're GE 1.5s,
Brand new installed.
82, no, they're order turbines.
The-
So they're about a quarter the size?
They're 80 meter, yeah, they're 300 or 400 feet. So,
Could you guys take us over to Howard and we can go knock on doors?
just
over
check
there?
on Howard, if they'll allow us to do it. So we don't own the project, but if the people at Howard, the project developer is okay, because you'll probably want to see the turbines going under them, listen to them, right? Then we would have to clear it with them. We're not opposed to it. I think taking this group, to a project that uses modern technology, so you can hear it yourself, is a fantastic thing to do. I've seen this before. We're happy to do it. We mentioned before also taking you to the turbine locations within Fremont. You mentioned that in the town hall to review them. Well, we're happy to do that. You guys just let us know when you want to. We'll arrange transportation and get it done.
So you said there were 1.5 kilowatt hour.
Megawatt.
Megawatt,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What's the size that you're planning for this town?
It's undecided, right? Because we've been
Well,
talking
yeah,
about.
but it's a lot more than 1.5.
It could be, yeah.
It's up to
It'd be
4.
more than, well,
So-
turbines now, you see anything from, there are 1.5s, 1.8s, 2.0s.
Right, but what I'm saying is you gotta compare apples with apples. So if you go up in size to say 3 megawatt per year, then you're gonna increase the sound.
So,
Those are relatively small for this day and age, 1.5 megawatt.
so we,
So-
that's right.
Just want to point out that actually, it's counterintuitive that as turbine sizes increase, it's actually that the sound decreases.
Well, you got the generator up top, right? I work for RG&E, electrical engineer, substations. The bigger the transformer, the louder it is.
Sure.
You got a transformer up on that pole, so it's a bigger transformer up there. So as far as your counterintuitive, I don't see what you're talking.
It's not a 115 or 230 or 138, 123, it's like a 480 volt DC generator, right? And
But it's a
then-
larger generator.
Then, well, you mentioned transformer.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a transformer up on top of a
Yeah.
pole,
But
really.
as Mike's saying, you know, the taller they are, the lower the sound at your level. But if the board is interested in going to visit, you know, similar technology to what we plan to choose, again, we're happy to do it. We're happy to do it.
I can provide some names for people in Cohocton you might want to go and talk to.
And Arkwright, it'd be nice to see what's going on there right now, the construction. Is that one of your projects?
It's not one of ours. It's another company. Another company.
So in project we have full schools right now, so that's later,
That's
right?
today, right?
Are they putting any turbines up right now?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That doesn't help us.
Right, doesn't, that's correct. Yeah.
But just to come back to the point, L10 versus LEQ, you know, we have spent the last 4 months getting to that 45 LEQ number. You know, that number, you know, was agreeable because we are confident that we can get those turbines that we're planning in the town of Fremont to fund the host community agreement, to make all those payments that we're promising based on that number. If we go to L10, you know, the first presentation that we came in here, once we realized that these amendments were being proposed, we advised that, you know, we're not gonna be able to build the project because we're gonna lose a lot of turbine locations. And so, you know, our fear is that by going to L10, we really do create another potential where we're in that situation. We're back to where we started.
If we're at 45, correct? And you can't just be a 45 max all the time, you're gonna have to average way above that, and you're gonna have to average it out? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that we have modeled at LEQ, and we feel confident that we can achieve it.
shouldn't be that big a difference between the two where,
Yeah, I mean, the difference between LEQ and L10, as we've stated, we are not, sound experts, but, what we are confident on is that we have done the research and diligence to make LEQ at 45, achievable.
is that LEQ 1 hour? LEQ 8 hour?
So we had agreed to, different lengths of time for different areas of the agreement. But yeah, there was an 8 hour, then there was a 1 hour, as well as an annual.
And then say we say, okay, we can go with the LEQ, and someone has a problem, that can be easily manipulated. If we have the L10, anyone can go out there.
I mean, I think to
with a
Leah's
meter.
point earlier, like LEQ is what is the correct measurement to ensure compliance. L10 is not, according to our sound consultant.
And trying to be protective of the
Yeah.
community.
If
That's
we
our
went back to
goal.
42, would it get rid of all the LEQ problems?
The LEQ,
No, so I think
42.
that was the whole point, is that, once we got to 42 at LEQ, we did not believe that we would be able to, maintain all of the turbine locations.
Has there ever occurred that there might be too many locations in the project, just curiously? I mean, you've got some projects in Pennsylvania with 12 and Howard's at 27. Just curious if there's too many, are they too big, too close?
So you have some projects with 2,000. So depends on the environment, depends on the resource, depends on a great number of things.
I don't understand. It seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, we hear numbers about money, but yet that could go down based on the type of turbine that you pick. But then you come back and say, well, we can basically guarantee or meet the 45, but yet you don't even know what turbine you're picking yet. It just seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions there.
Yeah, so what I just recommend, I expect the point of tonight's meeting was not to rehash items that have been discussed for the last how many months, but rather to move forward towards an approval of a town law. Might be beneficial if we, perhaps could like re-engage in regards to some of the items, the LEQ being one of them, and determine how we can reach an agreement on these items so that the town can get this finalized, get it completed, and allow us to provide a project within the town. We mentioned the LEQ. I think we're fine on the wells we discussed, the purchase we discussed, the turbine decision, provided an update, the lighting we discussed as well, and I appreciate your ability to move a bit on that, provide some additional language. It would seem the last bit that's a big open issue is the LEQ, L10, these things. So I was just going to see about some way to propose finalizing that, right, to the agreement of everyone, get it completed, so you guys can move forward.
Like this young lady explained right here, down the road, they're gonna use LEQ to measure 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. I don't understand what what good L10 is gonna do if they're gonna measure LEQ 1 year, 2 years, 10 years down the road.
And just to add on to that point, the baseline data that we've collected and analyzed, sorry, I'm trying to speak around here. It's the baseline that we have for the project within the town of Fremont is at an LEQ. So in order to compare between the two, it's just to your point in terms of measuring, every year as complaints come up and we go through the complaint resolution plan, right? Like it's all based off of the LEQ.
So,
measurements.
one other question for you, and then who says you need to use LEQ?
It's the standard that the New York State subject matter expert within the Department of Public Services staff. That's the standard that we are using and working with him in submitting various requests that they've submitted to the town. And that's the standard that we are using and working with him in submitting various requests that they've submitted to the town. proposed to the project for additional data, different